Welcome back to another story on Infidelity Tales Lab. Before we begin, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1, The Warning. Hector Nicholson was cleaning his service pistol when he heard the front door slam. The sound echoed through their suburban home like a gunshot, sharp and urgent. He'd been expecting Marcia to return from her book club, but the footsteps racing up the stairs were too light, too frantic. "Emma," he called, setting down his weapon. His 7-year-old daughter appeared in the doorway, and Hector's blood ran cold. Emma's lip was split and swollen, dried blood crusted at the corner. Her knees were scraped raw through torn jeans, dirt and gravel embedded in the wounds. But it was her eyes that stopped him, wide with terror, darting constantly toward the windows. "Daddy," she whispered, her small voice trembling. "We can't sleep here tonight." Hector knelt beside her, his trained eyes cataloging every injury. Someone had hurt his little girl. The rage that built in his chest was controlled, methodical, the same cold fury that had made him one of the Army's most effective interrogators. "Who did this to you, sweetheart?" Emma's hands shook as she pressed something into his palm. "They said they'd come after me if I told. But I had to tell you, Daddy. They said..." Her voice broke. "They said they'd hurt me worse if you didn't do what they wanted." Hector unfolded the crumpled note. 3 names were scrawled in harsh block letters: Vincent Bright, Marcia Nicholson, Julius Flynn. Below them, an address he didn't recognize and a time: 11 p.m. tonight. "Come alone." The first name hit him like a physical blow. Vincent Bright, Marcia's fitness trainer. The man who'd been coming to their house 3 times a week for the past 6 months, supposedly helping his wife get back in shape after Emma's birth complications. Hector had noticed the way Vincent looked at Marcia, but he'd trusted his wife. The second name made his vision blur with rage. His own wife. His partner of 9 years, mother of his child. Julius Flynn he didn't recognize, but that would change soon. "Emma, baby, I need you to tell me exactly what happened." Through halting words and tears, the story emerged. Emma had been walking home from her friend's house when a black SUV pulled up. 2 men had gotten out, one she recognized as Mommy's friend Vincent, and another she'd never seen. They grabbed her, shoved her into the vehicle. "Vincent said Mommy told him it was okay," Emma whispered. "He said you'd been bad and needed to learn a lesson. Well, I tried to run. The other man pushed me down. That's when I got hurt." "What else did they say?" "Vincent said tonight you were going to give them something important, and then we could all be a family again. But different," he said. Emma's voice dropped to barely audible. "He said soon Mommy wouldn't need you anymore." Hector pulled his daughter close, feeling her small body shake against his chest. Over her head, he stared at the names on the paper. His mind was already working, processing, planning. These people had made 2 critical mistakes. They'd hurt his child, and they'd underestimated who they were dealing with. "Where's Mommy now?" he asked. "She dropped me off and left again. Said she had an emergency at work." Hector's jaw tightened. Marcia worked part-time at a dental office that closed at 6. It was nearly 8 now. "Emma, I need you to pack a bag. Just overnight things. We're going to visit Uncle Tyler." Tyler Irwin wasn't really Emma's uncle, but he was the closest thing Hector had to family. Former special forces like Hector, Tyler ran a private security company and lived in a fortress-like compound 20 miles outside the city. If anyone could keep Emma safe while Hector handled this situation, it was Tyler. As Emma gathered her things, Hector studied the note again. The handwriting was crude, obviously disguised, but there were tells, the way the T tonight curved, the pressure variations that suggested someone trying to write with their non-dominant hand. Amateur hour. He photographed the note with his phone, then moved to his home office. The room looked like any other suburban dad's workspace, but Hector's past wasn't quite so mundane. Before Emma was born, before he'd settled into domestic life, Hector Nicholson had been Staff Sergeant Hector Nicholson, psychological operations specialist with the 4th Infantry Division. He'd spent 3 tours in Afghanistan, perfecting the art of breaking enemies without leaving a mark. Some skills never got rusty. From a hidden compartment behind his file cabinet, Hector retrieved items he'd hoped never to need again. surveillance equipment, encrypted communications gear, and detailed psychological profiles he'd compiled on everyone in his life, including his wife. Trust but verify. It had kept him alive overseas, and apparently, he'd need it at home too. 20 minutes later, he was loading Emma into his truck. She clutched her stuffed rabbit, still glancing nervously at every shadow. "Daddy, are you going to hurt the bad man?" Hector met his daughter's eyes in the rearview mirror. Even at 7, Emma was perceptive. She'd inherited her mother's beauty, but her father's steel. Sometimes, sweetheart, people make choices that have consequences. Tonight, some people are going to learn about consequences. Will mommy be in trouble too? The question pierced him more than any physical wound could have. Emma loved her mother, despite what Marcia had apparently become. But Hector's loyalty had limits, and those limits ended where his daughter's safety began. "We'll see, baby. We'll see." Chapter 2. The Revelation. Tyler Irwin's compound sat on 40 acres of rolling hills, surrounded by motion sensors and security cameras. To most visitors, it looked like an eccentric millionaire's ranch. To those who knew Tyler's background, it was what it actually was, a hardened defensive position that could withstand anything short of military assault. Tyler met them at the gate, 6'4", built like a linebacker, with the kind of scars that came from real combat, not gym accidents. He took one look at Emma's injuries, and his face went granite hard. "How many?" he asked simply. "At least 3, possibly more." Hector handed Tyler the note. "I need you to keep Emma safe while I handle this." Tyler scanned the paper, his expression darkening. "Vincent Bright. I know that name." "You do." "Private investigator. Operates out of the city. Specializes in marital situations. Usually works for wives looking to maximize divorce settlements." The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. Marcia wasn't just having an affair. She was building a case. The fitness sessions, the late nights, the gradual emotional distance. She'd been documenting everything, probably claiming abuse or neglect, setting up for a divorce that would leave Hector with nothing. But why involve Emma? Why threaten a child? "There's more," Tyler continued, leading them into his home office. "I ran some background checks on your wife a few months ago. You never asked, but old habits." Hector felt his blood chill. "What did you find?" Tyler pulled up a file on his computer. "Marcia Steele. Her maiden name has quite a history. 2 previous marriages, both ended in acrimonious divorces. Both ex-husbands filed complaints about manipulation, lies, stolen assets. In the second case, her husband was a wealthy contractor named David Steele." "Steele?" She kept his name. "Gets better." David Steele died in a car accident 3 months after their divorce was finalized. Single car crash, late at night. Investigators found alcohol in his system, but his friend swore he never drank and drove. Emma had fallen asleep on Tyler's couch, exhausted by trauma and fear. Hector stared at his daughter's peaceful face and felt something cold settle in his chest. What about Julius Flynn? That took longer to track down. Julius Flynn is Vincent Bright's brother-in-law, and he's got quite a resume. Former pharmaceutical tech, fired for selling controlled substances. Arrest for assault, intimidation, extortion. Nothing that stuck, but the pattern's clear. Hector absorbed this information with the detached calm of his military training. His wife was a predator who'd been running long cons for years. She'd married him not for love, but because a military man with PTSD and a good life insurance policy made an ideal target. The fitness trainer was her attack dog, and Julius Flynn was probably their muscle, the one who'd hurt Emma. "How long do you think this has been planned?" Tyler pulled up more files. "I'd guess from the beginning. Look at this. Vincent Bright's been operating in this area for 2 years. His client list reads like a who's who of divorced wives with substantial settlements. And they all have one thing in common. Their ex-husbands either died or disappeared shortly after the divorces were finalized. Disappeared, car accidents, suicides, overdoses. All ruled accidental or self-inflicted. But the pattern, Tyler shook his head. These people are killing machines with legal cover. Hector checked his watch. 9:30 p.m. He had 90 minutes before the meeting. "I need gear," he said simply. Tyler nodded and led him to another room, this one lined with weapons lockers and surveillance equipment. Hector selected items with the precision of a craftsman choosing tools: night vision goggles, tactical communications gear, zip ties, a suppressed pistol, and something Tyler called the Persuader, a device that delivered controlled electrical shocks. "What's the play?" Tyler asked. "Simple. They want to meet? We'll meet. But not the way they expect." Hector's phone buzzed. A text from Marcia. "Where are you? Emma said you took her somewhere. We need to talk." He showed Tyler the message. His old teammate's smile was predatory. "She doesn't know that you know," Tyler observed. "Not yet. But she's about to learn something about me she never suspected." Hector typed back. "Emma's safe with friends. Had to run an errand. Be home late." The reply came quickly. "Please hurry. I'm worried about you." Worried about her timeline, more like, Tyler muttered. Hector spent the next hour preparing, his mind sharp and focused. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about protecting Emma and ensuring these predators never hurt another family. At 10:45 p.m., he drove toward the address on the note. But he wasn't going alone, and he wasn't going unprepared. Tyler followed in a separate vehicle, monitoring everything through encrypted comms. The address led to an abandoned warehouse in the industrial district, the kind of place where screams wouldn't carry and bodies could disappear. Amateur hour indeed. Hector parked 2 blocks away and approached on foot, night vision revealing the tactical situation. 1 entrance, 2 windows, no visible rear exit. A black SUV, probably the one that had taken Emma, sat in the shadows. Inside the warehouse, 3 heat signatures waited. They'd chosen the perfect place for a murder. Unfortunately for them, they'd invited the wrong victim. "Tyler, you in position?" "Roger. Building surrounded. No one gets out." Hector checked his weapons one last time. His daughter's blood was still under his fingernails, and that was all the motivation he needed. Time to introduce Vincent Bright and his friends to consequences. Chapter 3. The Hunter's Moon. Hector approached the warehouse like a wraith, every sense heightened. Through his comms, Tyler's voice provided tactical updates. 3 inside, still stationary. No additional vehicles in the area. "You're clear for approach." The front door hung slightly ajar, obviously intentional. They wanted him to enter, probably expecting him to stumble in like a desperate, frightened husband. Instead, Hector found a maintenance ladder on the building's side and climbed to a skylight. Through the dirty glass, he could see the setup below. Vincent Bright stood near a makeshift table, checking his phone repeatedly. The man was exactly as Hector remembered, tall, lean, with the kind of sculpted physique that came from vanity rather than function. But tonight, Vincent's usual cocky demeanor seemed strained. Julius Flynn was positioned by the door, a mountain of muscle with prison tattoos covering his arms. The third figure made Hector's blood freeze. Marcia. His wife sat in a chair center stage, her hands apparently bound behind her back, a gag across her mouth. Her eyes were wide with terror, tears streaming down her face. To any observer, she looked like a victim. But Hector noticed what others wouldn't. The expensive jewelry she wore, the fresh manicure, the fact that her bonds were loose enough that she could slip them if needed. This was theater designed to make him rush in without thinking. "Change of plan," he whispered into his comm, "the wife's in on it." "This is an ambush." Tyler's voice crackled back. "Copy that. How do you want to play it?" Hector studied the scene more carefully. No weapons visible, but that didn't mean they weren't armed. Vincent kept checking his phone, probably waiting for Hector's approach. Julius looked bored, like this was routine. "Give me 2 minutes, then cut the power to the building." Hector positioned himself above Julius Flynn and waited. At exactly 11 p.m., the warehouse plunged into darkness. "What the hell?" Vincent's voice carried clearly in the sudden silence. "Power's out," Julius responded, his voice calm. "Probably just a grid failure." "Turn on the emergency lights," Vincent snapped. But Hector was already moving. He dropped through the skylight as silently as falling snow, landing behind Julius before the man could react. The Persuader touched Julius's neck, and the giant crumpled without a sound. "Julius?" Vincent called. "Julius, where are you?" Marcia made muffled sounds through her gag. but they sounded more frustrated than frightened. In the darkness, Hector could see Vincent fumbling for something, probably a weapon. "Hello, Vincent," Hector said, his voice cutting through the darkness like a blade. Vincent spun toward the sound, a pistol now visible in his hands. "Hector? Thank God you're here. They have Marcia. We need to save it." Hector's voice was conversational, almost casual. "I know what this is." The silence stretched taut. Finally, Vincent's facade cracked. "You know nothing," Vincent snarled, raising his weapon. "You stupid grunt. You never deserved her." "Tyler, lights," Hector commanded. Emergency floodlights blazed to life, revealing the true situation. Julius Flynn lay unconscious, zip-tied and gagged. Vincent squinted in the sudden brightness, his pistol wavering. And Marcia sat in her chair, no longer playing the victim. Her bonds had been slipped, her gag pulled down. She was reaching for something hidden beneath the table. "Really, Marcia?" Hector asked, stepping into view. "A knife? After everything we've been through?" His wife froze, her hand inches from the weapon. In the harsh light, her true nature was finally visible. Cold calculation where warmth used to be, predatory intelligence instead of love. "You don't understand," she began, but Hector cut her off. "I understand perfectly. Vincent's your attack dog. Julius is your muscle. And I was supposed to be your next victim." He gestured to the warehouse around them. "Isolated location, no witnesses. Let me guess. I was going to resist kidnapping, and in the struggle I'd be killed. Tragic accident." Vincent's grip on his pistol tightened. "You're smarter than we gave you credit for. Smart enough to know you've done this before. David Steele wasn't your first victim, was he, Marcia? How many husbands have you buried?" "Enough," Marcia snapped, abandoning all pretense. "Enough pathetic men who thought they deserved me. You were just another Mark, Hector, another lonely soldier who needed someone to take care of him." The words should have hurt, but they only crystallized Hector's resolve. "And Emma? What was the plan for my daughter?" "Accidents happen to children too," Vincent said with a shrug. "Especially traumatized kids whose fathers died violently." That was all Hector needed to hear. He moved with the fluid precision of his military training. Vincent's gun was trained on where Hector had been standing, not where he was moving. The suppressed pistol in Hector's hand coughed once, and Vincent's weapon clattered to the floor along with two of his fingers. Vincent's scream echoed through the warehouse as he collapsed, clutching his ruined hand. "You shot him," Marcia gasped, genuine shock replacing her calculated coldness. "I've barely started," Hector replied, securing Vincent's weapon. "Tyler, how are we looking outside?" "All clear. No one's coming to rescue them." Hector zip-tied Vincent's good hand to a structural support beam, then turned his attention to his wife. Marcia had finally understood that her carefully laid plan had become her trap. "Hector, please," she began, falling back on old manipulation tactics. "I know how this looks, but you don't understand the whole situation. Vincent forced me." "Stop." Hector's voice was flat, emotionless. "I've read your file, Marcia. I know about your previous husbands. I know about the insurance policies, the convenient accidents. I know Emma was never safe with you. She's my daughter too. A daughter you put in harm's way to manipulate me. A daughter you were willing to orphan for money." Julius Flynn was beginning to stir. Hector administered another touch of the persuader, keeping him unconscious. "Here's what's going to happen," Hector continued, his voice carrying the authority of command. "You're going to tell me about every other family you've destroyed, every husband you've killed, every child you've orphaned, and then we're going to discuss your future." Vincent whimpered through his pain. "You can't do this. This is kidnapping, assault." "No," Hector corrected. "This is justice. You made the mistake of threatening my daughter. There are no rules now." Marcia seemed to finally grasp the gravity of her situation. The man she'd married, the gentle father she'd manipulated for 2 years, was gone. In his place stood someone far more dangerous, someone whose protection of his child knew no limits. "What do you want?" she whispered. Hector smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "I want you to understand that you picked the wrong family to hunt. And I want you to understand that everything you've built, everyone you've corrupted, every plan you've made, it all ends tonight." The real interrogation was about to begin. Chapter 4. The Soldier's Creed. The abandoned warehouse became Hector's interrogation theater, a space where he could apply skills honed in Afghanistan's most dangerous provinces. But this time, he wasn't extracting information about enemy positions or bomb-making facilities. This time, he was unraveling a conspiracy that had claimed multiple lives and nearly destroyed his family. Vincent Bright hung from the structural beam by his zip-tied wrist, his injured hand wrapped in a makeshift bandage that Hector had applied with clinical precision. Not from mercy, but from practicality. Dead men couldn't provide information. "Let's start with something simple," Hector said, consulting notes he'd made on his phone. "David Steele. How did you kill him?" Vincent's face had gone gray with pain and shock. "I don't know what you're talking about." The persuader touched Vincent's ribs, and his body convulsed. The scream that followed was raw and primal. "Wrong answer. Tyler, status report. All quiet out here," came the reply through Hector's earpiece. "No police, no backup, no witnesses. You got all night." Marcia watched from her chair, no longer bound but knowing better than to run. Hector had made it clear that any movement would be her last. "David Steele," Hector repeated, "Marcia's second husband. Died 3 months after their divorce. Single car accident. Blood alcohol above the legal limit." "That wasn't us," Marcia protested. "David really was an alcoholic. Shut up." Hector's tone carried the weight of absolute authority. "Vincent, I'm going to ask again. How did you kill David Steele?" This time, Vincent's resolve cracked slightly. "We didn't kill him directly." "Explain." "Julius has connections. People who can alter blood tests. Post-mortem toxicology." Hector processed this information with the methodical patience of a professional interrogator. "So you staged the accident, then had the blood work falsified to show alcohol." Vincent nodded miserably. "How many others?" "I invoke my right to remain silent." Hector almost smiled. "Vincent, you seem to think this is a legal proceeding. It's not. This is a conversation between a father and the people who hurt his daughter. Constitutional rights don't apply here." The persuader made contact again, and Vincent's body arched in agony. "6, he gasped when the current stopped. 6 others over the past 5 years. Marcia's face went white. Even she hadn't known the full extent of Vincent's operation. "Names," Hector demanded. As Vincent recited the list, Hector cross-referenced each name with missing persons reports and suspicious deaths he'd accessed through Tyler's security firm database. The pattern was clear and horrifying. Marcia would marry wealthy, isolated men, typically veterans or divorced professionals. Vincent would document evidence of abuse or psychological instability. Then, when the divorce proceedings began, the husband would suffer a convenient accident. "What about the children?" Hector asked. "Most of them didn't have kids," Vincent replied weakly. "When they did, accidents happened." "How many children have you killed?" Vincent's silence stretched until Hector reached for the persuader again. 3, Vincent whispered. 3 kids who might have talked. Made it look like accidents or suicides. The warehouse fell silent except for Vincent's labored breathing. Julius Flynn remained unconscious, periodically twitching as the electrical shock wore off. And Marcia sat frozen, finally understanding the monster she'd allied herself with. "Hector," she began carefully, "I didn't know about the children. Vincent never told me. But you suspected." Hector's voice was conversational, almost gentle. "When your first husband's daughter Emma died in that swimming pool accident. When David Steele's son was found hanging in his college dorm room. You suspected, but you didn't care. I thought they were just coincidences." "No, you didn't." Hector pulled up photos on his phone. Crime scene images Tyler had acquired through his contacts. "You knew. You've always known. You just decided that other people's children were acceptable losses." He showed her the photos. A 7-year-old girl at the bottom of a swimming pool, a 19-year-old boy in a dorm room, a 10-year-old child found dead for what appeared to be accidental poisoning. Each death had occurred within months of their father's suspicious accidents. "My daughter could have been next," Hector continued. "In fact, she was supposed to be next, wasn't she? After tonight, after you killed me, Emma would have had an accident too. Can't leave witnesses." Marcia's composure finally cracked completely. Tears streamed down her face, but Hector felt no sympathy. She was crying for herself, not for the children she'd helped murder. "Please," she sobbed. "I'll do anything. I'll confess. I'll testify against Vincent. You'll what? Serve 20 years in minimum security and get out with good behavior." Hector shook his head. "That's not justice for those children." Julius Flynn began to stir again. This time, Hector let him wake up. "Julius," Hector said conversationally, "good to finally meet you. I understand you're the one who grabbed my daughter today." Julius's eyes focused slowly, taking in the scene. Vincent hanging from the beam, Marcia crying in her chair, Hector standing calmly with a weapon in his hand. "You're making a big mistake," Julius growled. "You have no idea who you're messing with." "Enlighten me." "I've got connections. Police, prosecutors, judges. You kill us, and they'll hunt you down." Hector nodded thoughtfully. "Interesting. Tyler, did you get that confession?" "Every word. Also got traces running on Julius's phone records. Amazing how many law enforcement officials he's been in contact with." Julius's face went pale as he realized his mistake. "See, Julius, that's the difference between professionals and amateurs," Hector explained. "Professionals gather intelligence before making threats. For instance, I know you've been paying off Detective Charles Hudson to look the other way on suspicious deaths. I know you've got compromising material on Judge Beatrice Hoffman. And I know you've been using former police chief Mario Pena's gambling debts to ensure certain evidence disappears. How do you? Because I'm very good at my job. And my job, right now, is protecting my daughter from people like you." Hector checked his watch. 1:30 a.m. Emma would be sleeping safely at Tyler's compound, probably dreaming of better things than the nightmare her mother had planned for her. "Here's what's going to happen," Hector announced. "Vincent, you're going to provide me with detailed information about every corrupt official in your network. Names, dates, amounts paid, services provided. Julius, you're going to give me access to whatever leverage you have on these people. And Marcia," he turned to his wife, the woman who'd shared his bed while planning his murder. "Marcia, you're going to disappear." "What do you mean?" "I mean you're going to vanish from Emma's life completely. No custody battles, no visitation rights, no contact of any kind. Because if you ever try to see my daughter again, if you ever try to hurt another family, if you ever surface anywhere near my life, well, let's just say that what happened to your previous husbands will seem gentle by comparison." The warehouse fell silent as the three conspirators absorbed their fate. They'd planned to be predators, but they'd stumbled into the territory of an apex predator. And now they would learn what real consequences looked like. Chapter 5. The Network Falls. Dawn was breaking over the city as Hector completed his interrogation. Vincent Bright hung unconscious from a beam, his body unable to endure any more of Hector's persuasion. Julius Flynn sat slumped against a wall, his earlier bravado replaced by broken resignation. And Marcia remained in her chair, staring at the floor with the hollow eyes of someone whose world had completely collapsed. The information Hector had extracted painted a picture of corruption that stretched through multiple law enforcement agencies, the court system, and even the medical examiner's office. Vincent's operation hadn't just been killing isolated husbands. They'd been running a criminal enterprise that infected the entire justice system. "Tyler, you getting all this?" Hector asked, reviewing the notes on his phone. "Every detail. I've already started cross-referencing with cases in our database." "This is bigger than we thought. Hector, these people have been operating for over a decade." Hector nodded grimly. Vincent and Julius hadn't just been serial killers. They'd been the heads of a conspiracy that had perverted justice for years. The corrupt officials they'd compromised had allowed dozens of cases to be buried, evidence to disappear, witnesses to be silenced. "Julius," Hector said, approaching the broken man, "I need access to your insurance files." "What insurance files?" The persuader touched Julius's shoulder briefly, just enough to remind him of the consequences of lying. "Fine." "Jesus," Julius gasped. "There's a safety deposit box. Bank of America on 5th Street. Box 247. The key's in my wallet." Hector found the wallet and extracted a small key. "What's in the box?" Photos, recordings, financial records. Everything we had on the people we were paying off. Vincent insisted on keeping insurance in case anyone tried to turn on us. Smart man. Unfortunately for him, he never planned for this scenario. Hector turned to Marcia, who had been silent for the past hour. Your turn, wife. I need to know about the money. What money? The money you've been stealing from your dead husbands. The life insurance payouts, the asset transfers, the mysterious account movements. Where is it all? Marcia looked up with red-rimmed eyes. Offshore accounts. Cayman Islands, mostly. Some in Switzerland. Account numbers. I can't remember all of them. Hector sighed and reached for the persuader. Wait. Marcia flinched. There's a notebook. In our house, hidden behind a false back in my jewelry box. Everything's written down there. Good. Tyler, you copy that. Already on it. I'll have a team at the house within the hour. The sun was fully up now, streaming through the warehouse windows and illuminating the destruction of 3 lives. But Hector felt no satisfaction, only grim determination. Justice wasn't about revenge. It was about ensuring these predators could never hurt another family. Hector, Vincent's voice was barely a whisper. He'd regained consciousness but could barely lift his head. What are you going to do with us? That depends, Hector replied. Are you familiar with the concept of mutually assured destruction? Vincent's face showed confusion through his pain. It's a military doctrine, Hector explained. The idea that if everyone has the power to destroy everyone else, no one will risk starting a war. I'm about to apply that principle to your situation. He pulled out his phone and started a video recording, pointing it at Vincent. State your name for the record. Vincent Bright. And your profession? Private investigator. And are you also a serial killer? Vincent's eyes darted desperately around the room, looking for escape that didn't exist. I invoke my right to remain silent. Vincent, I want you to understand something. This warehouse has no soundproofing. Your screams have been carrying for blocks. But more importantly, it has excellent acoustics for recording confessions. Hector played back a snippet of audio on his phone. Vincent's earlier admission about the 6 murdered husbands, clear as crystal. Now, you can either provide a complete confession on video, naming all your accomplices and detailing all your crimes, or I can release this audio to every news outlet in the state. Either way, the world's going to know what you are. The question is whether you want to control the narrative. Vincent stared at the phone with the expression of a man watching his own execution. If I confess, what happens to me? You'll be arrested, tried, and convicted. You'll spend the rest of your life in prison, but you'll be alive. Your family will know the truth, but they'll be able to visit you. And if I don't? Hector's smile was cold as Arctic wind. Then you disappear, and your family spend the rest of their lives wondering what happened to you. The choice was no choice at all. Over the next hour, Vincent provided a complete video confession detailing a decade of murders, corruption, and conspiracy. Julius followed suit, his broken spirit unable to resist any longer. Marcia's confession was the most damning of all. She detailed not just her role in the recent crimes, but her entire history of marrying and murdering wealthy men. The cold calculation in her voice, as she described viewing potential husbands as marks and their children as obstacles, was chilling even to Hector's hardened sensibilities. That's enough, Hector finally said, stopping the recording. Tyler, how long until the cavalry arrives? 20 minutes. FBI task force, based on the evidence we've compiled. Clean arrest by the book. Hector nodded. He'd called in favors with federal contacts, ensuring that none of the corrupted local officials would be involved in the arrest. The FBI team would find 3 suspects ready for transport, along with enough evidence to dismantle the entire conspiracy. What about us? Marcia asked desperately. What's going to happen to us? You're going to face justice, Hector replied simply. Real justice, not the perverted version you've been manipulating for years. And you? What about what you did here tonight? Hector looked around the warehouse, at the evidence of his interrogation. By the time the FBI arrived, any signs of his methods would be gone. Vincent and Julius's injuries would be attributed to resistance during their apprehension, and their confessions would be presented as the result of guilt and fear, not physical coercion. I'm going home to my daughter, Hector said. I'm going to make her breakfast, help her with her homework, and remind her that there are still good people in the world who will protect her from monsters. He gathered his equipment methodically, leaving no trace of his presence. Tyler's team would handle the cleanup, ensuring that when the FBI arrived, they'd find nothing but 3 criminals ready for arrest. As Hector prepared to leave, Marcia called out one last time. Hector, please. I know I don't deserve it, but will you tell Emma that I loved her? That everything I did was for her future? Hector paused at the warehouse door, not turning around. No, he said simply, because it wasn't true, and my daughter deserves better than lies. He walked out into the morning sun, leaving his old life behind forever. Chapter 6, The Cleansing. Hector drove through the early morning streets with the windows down, letting the cool air wash away the stench of betrayal and violence. His phone buzzed constantly. Text messages from Marcia's number, probably automated messages she'd scheduled to maintain her facade of normalcy. He turned off the phone and focused on the road ahead. Tyler's compound came into view as the sun climbed higher, its security gates and camera towers looking more welcoming than forbidding. Emma would be waking up soon, probably confused about why she'd spent the night away from home. Hector needed to be there when she woke up, needed to begin the careful process of helping her understand that her world had changed forever. The front gate recognized his vehicle and opened silently. Tyler met him in the driveway, his expression grim but satisfied. It's done, Tyler asked. It's done. FBI should have them in custody within the hour. Good. Emma's still sleeping, but she was asking for you earlier. Kid's tough, but she's scared. Hector nodded, feeling the weight of single parenthood settling on his shoulders. Emma would have questions he wasn't sure how to answer. How do you explain to a 7-year-old that her mother was a monster? How do you help a child understand that the woman who read her bedtime stories was also planning her death? Any word on the safety deposit box? Hector asked. Already cleared it out. You're not going to believe what was in there. Tyler led him into the house, past the sleeping area where Emma was curled up with her stuffed rabbit. His office was spread with documents, photographs, and recording equipment. Vincent wasn't just insurance fraud, Tyler explained, pulling up files on his computer. The guy was running a full-scale blackmail operation. Look at this. The screen showed photographs of prominent city officials in compromising situations. Mayor Alberto Sutton accepting envelopes of cash from Julius Flynn, Police Commissioner Andre Childs destroying evidence in a department storage room, District Attorney Shane Sanders meeting with known criminals in hotel rooms. How deep does this go? Hector asked. City government, county courts, state police. Vincent had dirt on everyone from traffic cops to state senators. And it gets worse. Tyler pulled up audio files. The first was a recording of Mayor Sutton authorizing the destruction of evidence in a child murder case. The second captured Police Commissioner Childs ordering subordinates to falsify reports. The third was District Attorney Sanders explicitly discussing which cases to throw in exchange for campaign contributions. Jesus, Hector breathed. This isn't just corruption. This is a complete breakdown of the justice system. It gets worse. Vincent kept detailed records of every case they interfered with. Murders, rapes, child abuse cases, all buried or botched deliberately. We're talking about hundreds of victims who never got justice. Hector studied the files with growing horror. Vincent and Julius hadn't just been serial killers. They'd been a linchpin in a system that allowed all kinds of predators to operate freely. Every corrupt official they'd compromised had enabled dozens of other crimes. What's our play? Hector asked. I've already copied everything to encrypted drives. 3 sets. One goes to the FBI team handling the arrests, one goes to the state attorney general's office, and one goes to the media. By tonight, this whole house of cards comes down. A soft voice interrupted their conversation. Daddy. Emma stood in the doorway, rubbing sleep from her eyes. She looked small and vulnerable in her pajamas, a living reminder of what Hector had been fighting to protect. Hey, sweetheart, Hector said, kneeling down to her level. How did you sleep? Okay, I guess. Uncle Tyler has really good security. Emma's attempt at humor didn't hide the fear in her eyes. Daddy, are the bad men gone? Hector pulled his daughter into a hug, feeling her small body trembling against his chest. Yes, baby. They can't hurt you anymore. What about Mommy? Is she okay? The question he'd been dreading. Hector met Tyler's eyes over Emma's head, seeing his own uncertainty reflected there. Emma, we need to talk about some things. Some very important things. Over the next hour, Hector explained what he could in terms of his 7-year-old could understand. Mommy had been making bad choices. She'd been working with people who wanted to hurt their family. She wouldn't be coming home anymore. Emma absorbed the information with the resilience of childhood, asking practical questions that cut straight to the heart of the matter. Would she still go to school? Will they keep their house? Would she see her friends again? We might need to move, Hector admitted. Somewhere safer, where we can start fresh. Will you stay with me? Always, sweetheart. I will always stay with you. Tyler's phone buzzed. He checked it and nodded to Hector. FBI's got them. Clean arrest. No resistance. Vincent and Julius are in federal custody. Marsh is being processed at the county facility. What happens now? Emma asked. Now we rebuild, Hector said simply. We find a new place to live, maybe somewhere with a better school district. We make new friends. We learn to trust people again. Will Mommy go to jail? Yes, baby. She will. Good, Emma said with startling firmness. She hurt people. People who hurt people should go to jail. Hector was struck by his daughter's clarity. At 7 years old, Emma understood justice better than the adults who'd perverted it for their own gain. Daddy, can I ask you something? Anything. Last night, when you went to stop the bad men, did you hurt them? Hector considered his answer carefully. Emma deserved honesty, but she also deserved to maintain some faith in goodness. I did what I had to do to protect you, he said finally. Sometimes, when people are trying to hurt your family, you have to be stronger than they are. Were you scared? No, sweetheart. I wasn't scared, because protecting you is the most important thing in the world to me. Emma nodded solemnly, as if filing this information away for future reference. Tyler's computer chimed with incoming messages. The FBI task force was reporting successful raids on 14 locations based on the intelligence from Vincent's files. Corrupt officials were being arrested across the city. Evidence that had been buried for years was being recovered and processed. It's like watching dominoes fall, Tyler observed. 15 years of corruption unraveling in one morning. What about the victims' families? Hector asked. The people who never got justice? That's the beautiful part. With Vincent's records and the recovered evidence, dozens of cases can be reopened. Families who thought their loved ones' killers would never be caught are going to get closure. Hector felt a grim satisfaction. Emma's ordeal had led to justice for hundreds of victims. Her courage in delivering that note, despite her terror, had potentially saved countless future victims. We should probably get moving, Tyler said. Media is going to be all over this story. You don't want to be anywhere near the spotlight. Hector nodded. He'd already decided they needed to disappear for a while, at least until the trials were over and the media circus died down. Tyler had contacts who could provide new identities, safe houses, complete fresh starts. Where do you want to go? He asked Emma. Somewhere with mountains, she said immediately. And snow. I want to learn to ski. Mountains and snow it is. As they prepared to leave Tyler's compound, Hector's phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. He almost ignored it, but something made him answer. Mr. Nicholson? This is Special Agent Rebecca Chandler, FBI. I wanted to thank you personally for your assistance in this case. I'm not sure what you mean. The evidence packages that were delivered to our field office this morning. The detailed intelligence that allowed us to roll up this entire network. We know it came from you. Hector remained silent. Mr. Nicholson, I want you to know that what happened to your daughter, what was planned for your family, we understand why you did what you did. Officially, our investigation shows that you've been fully cooperative with federal authorities. Unofficially, I want you to know that you've probably saved dozens of lives. Thank you, Agent Chandler. Take care of that little girl, Mr. Nicholson, and know that the people who hurt her will never hurt anyone again. As Hector ended the call, he felt a weight lifting from his shoulders. Justice had been served, not in the corrupted courts that Vincent and Julius had manipulated, but in the pure, clean way that protected the innocent and punished the guilty. Emma tugged on his hand. Daddy, are you ready to go see the mountains? I'm ready, sweetheart. Let's go home. Chapter 7. The Reckoning. 6 months later, Hector and Emma were living in a cabin outside Aspen, Colorado, under the names Thomas and Sarah Mitchell. The mountains Emma had dreamed of rose majestically around their new home, and she'd taken to skiing with the fearless enthusiasm that only children possess. The terror in her eyes had faded, replaced by the confidence that came from knowing she was truly safe. Hector worked as a security consultant for Tyler's firm, which had expanded operations to Colorado after the success of the Vincent Bright case. Most of his work was legitimate, protecting executives, investigating corporate espionage, consulting on facility security. But occasionally, cases came across his desk that required more specialized attention. Today was one of those days. "We've got a problem," Tyler said over their encrypted video call. "Marcia's trial is starting next week, and her defense team is making noise about her confession being coerced." Hector looked up from where he was helping Emma with her homework. "What kind of noise?" "They're claiming she was intimidated into confessing. They want to exclude the video evidence and are demanding an investigation into how she was arrested. Any chance they can make it stick?" "Minimal. The FBI handled the arrest by the book, and the physical evidence is overwhelming. But her lawyer is smart. Richard Snyder, one of those high-profile defense attorneys who specialize in getting guilty people off on technicalities." Emma finished her math problems and looked up. "Daddy, is someone trying to help the bad lady?" Even at 7, Emma understood more about the legal system than most adults. The months of therapy had helped her process her trauma, but they'd also given her a remarkably clear understanding of justice and consequences. "Some people think everyone deserves a defense, even bad people," Hector explained. "But that doesn't mean the bad people will get away with what they did." "Good," Emma said firmly. "She should stay in jail forever." Tyler's voice continued from the screen. "There's something else. Marcia's been getting visits from someone unexpected." "Who?" "Her sister, Carrie Herring. Turns out Marcia has family we didn't know about." Hector felt a chill that had nothing to do with the Colorado winter. "What kind of family?" "The kind that might want to continue the family business. Carrie Herring has a record, fraud, identity theft, suspected in at least 2 insurance scams. And she's been very interested in Marcia's offshore accounts." "You think she's planning something?" "I think she's been studying Marcia's operation and wants to pick up where her sister left off. But there's a complication." Tyler's expression grew grim. "Carrie's been asking questions about Emma. Specifically, she's been asking about custody rights, next of kin status, life insurance beneficiaries." The temperature in the cabin seemed to drop 10 degrees. Emma, sensitive to her father's moods, looked up from her homework with concern. "Daddy, what's wrong?" "Nothing, sweetheart. Just some business stuff. Why don't you go practice piano for a bit?" Emma nodded and moved to the small, upright piano they'd bought for the cabin. As her fingers began picking out a simple melody, Hector leaned closer to his laptop screen. "Tell me everything," he said quietly. "Carrie Herring, age 34, currently living in Phoenix under the name Carrie Hudson. She's been divorced twice. Both ex-husbands died in suspicious circumstances. She's also got a son, 16-year-old Charles Hudson, who's been in and out of juvenile detention for assault and theft. She's building a crew. That's what I think. Carrie's smarter than Marcia, more careful. She's been laying groundwork for months, establishing new identities, building relationships with corrupt officials in different jurisdictions. But here's the thing that worries me most." Tyler pulled up surveillance photos on his screen. "She's been in contact with some of Julius Flynn's old associates. People who weren't caught in the FBI sweep." Hector studied the images. Carrie Herring was attractive in the same calculated way as her sister, the kind of woman who could manipulate lonely men with practiced ease. But there was something harder in her face, more predatory. "What's her endgame?" "Best guess. She wants to establish herself as Marcia's heir, legal guardian for Emma, access to the offshore accounts, continuation of the Black Widow operation in a new territory. Over my dead body. That's exactly what I'm afraid she's planning." The piano music stopped abruptly. Emma had been listening, despite Hector's attempt to shield her from the conversation. "Daddy," she said quietly, "is the bad lady's sister coming to hurt us?" Hector closed the laptop and knelt beside his daughter. Emma, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Some bad people might try to find us, but I want you to remember something important. You're safe. I will never let anyone hurt you. Do you understand? Yes, Daddy. But what if they're smarter than the other bad people? Then I'll have to be smarter than them. Emma nodded solemnly, then surprised him with a question that showed how much she'd grown. Do you need help? What do you mean? I mean, maybe I can help catch them. I'm really good at remembering things, and I notice stuff that adults don't notice. Hector was torn between pride and terror. His 7-year-old daughter was offering to help him hunt killers. It was both inappropriate and exactly the kind of clarity he needed. Tell you what, he said finally. If you notice anything strange, anyone watching us, anyone asking questions about us, you tell me immediately. But otherwise, you let me handle the bad people. Deal. Deal. That evening, after Emma was asleep, Hector reopened his laptop and studied everything Tyler had compiled on Carrie Herring. The woman was definitely building towards something: new identities, financial preparations, networking with criminal contacts. And her interest in Emma was unmistakable. But Carrie Herring had made the same mistake as her sister. She'd underestimated her target. Hector opened a secure communication channel and began typing. Tyler, I need everything you can get me on Carrie Herring and her son. Financial records, travel patterns, known associates, criminal contacts. I also need surveillance on their current location. You planning a preemptive strike? I'm planning to end this permanently. Marcia was content to wait for opportunities. Carrie seems more aggressive. That makes her more dangerous, but also more predictable. What do you need from me? Backup, intelligence, and clean extraction routes. Carrie's going to come for Emma eventually. When she does, I want to be ready. Copy that. I'll have a full workup within 24 hours. Hector closed the laptop and checked on Emma one more time. She was sleeping peacefully, her stuffed rabbit clutched tightly in her arms. The mountain air coming through the window was crisp and clean, carrying the scent of snow and pine. Tomorrow, he would begin planning the final elimination of the threat to his daughter. Carrie Herring thought she could step into her sister's shoes, continue the family tradition of predation and murder. She was about to learn that some prey fought back, and when they did, the hunter could become the hunted. Hector settled into his chair by the window, watching the moonlight on the snow-covered peaks. Somewhere out there, Carrie Herring was planning her next move. But Hector had something she didn't: the absolute certainty that he would do anything, sacrifice anything, become anything necessary to protect his daughter. The war Marcia had started was about to end. Permanently. Chapter 8. The Final Hunt. Carrie Herring arrived in Aspen 3 days later, traveling under the identity of Catherine Hoffman, a wealthy widow looking for investment properties in the ski resort town. Tyler's surveillance network picked her up at the airport, traveling alone but maintaining regular contact with unknown parties via encrypted messaging. She's good, Tyler admitted over their secure call. Professional surveillance detection, clean identity documents, cash payments for everything. This isn't her first time hunting. Hector watched the surveillance footage from his cabin office while Emma played in the snow outside. Carrie looked exactly like what she was pretending to be: an elegant, well-dressed woman with the kind of casual confidence that came from money. But Hector could see the predator beneath the facade, the way her eyes constantly scanned her surroundings, cataloging threats and opportunities. Where's she staying? The St. Regis Presidential Suite. Paid for 2 weeks in advance. She's already started asking questions at the front desk about local families with children, specifically mentioning she's looking for investment opportunities in family-friendly neighborhoods. She's hunting for Emma. Gets worse. I've identified at least 3 known associates who've arrived in town over the past week. They're staying at different hotels, but they're definitely working together. Tyler's screen showed photographs of the other arrivals. A man in his 30s with the lean build of a professional fighter, a woman who could have been Carrie's sister with the same predatory beauty, and an older man whose expensive suit couldn't hide the prison tattoos on his neck. Professional crew, Hector observed. Carrie's not playing games. There's something else. I hacked into Carrie's encrypted communications. She's not just planning to grab Emma. She's planning to eliminate anyone who might interfere with her custody claim. Meaning me. Meaning you, me, anyone who knows the truth about Marcia's operation. Carrie wants a clean slate, which means no witnesses to her sister's crimes. Emma's laughter carried through the window as she built a snowman in the front yard. The sound was pure joy, untainted by the darkness that surrounded their lives. Hector had promised her they could start fresh in Colorado, but the past was catching up with them faster than he'd hoped. "What's the timeline?" he asked. "Based on their behavior patterns, I guess they'll move within 48 hours. Carrie's been scouting the area, learning your routines, identifying vulnerabilities. Her people have been positioning themselves at strategic points around town. Then we end this tonight." Tyler's face showed surprise. "Tonight?" "Hector, this isn't some street thug we're dealing with. Carrie's got a professional crew, probably military or intelligence training. We need time to plan. We need time to die if we let them make the first move," Hector interrupted. "Emma's safety isn't negotiable. These people kill children for convenience. I won't give them the opportunity." Emma knocked on the office window, gesturing for him to come outside. Hector held up one finger, indicating he needed another minute. "What do you have in mind?" Tyler asked. "Something they won't expect. Carrie's been studying me as Thomas Mitchell, suburban security consultant. She doesn't know who I really am, what I'm really capable of. You're talking about going full operator. I'm talking about eliminating a threat to my daughter. Permanently." Tyler was quiet for a long moment. "Okay, what do you need?" "Clean identities for Emma and me after this is over. Somewhere they'll never find us. Already prepared. Montana ranch, completely off-grid, no paper trail. Equipment. I can have a full tactical package to you within 2 hours." "Do it." Hector ended the call and went outside to join Emma in the snow. She'd built an impressive snowman, complete with stick arms and a carrot nose. "What do you think, Daddy?" "I think it's perfect, sweetheart. Are we going to have to leave him behind?" The question caught Hector off guard. Emma had an uncanny ability to sense when their lives were about to change. "Maybe," he admitted. "Would that be okay?" Emma considered this seriously. "I guess so. We can always build new snowmen wherever we go." "That's right. We can always start over." "Daddy, are the bad people close?" Hector knelt beside his daughter, meeting her eyes. "Yes, baby. They're very close. Are you going to stop them like you stopped the other bad people?" "Yes. Will you come back to me?" The question pierced him more deeply than any wound could have. Emma wasn't asking if he would win. She was asking if he would survive. "Always," he promised. "I will always come back to you." That evening, after Emma was asleep, Tyler arrived with a tactical package that would have impressed a special forces unit. Night vision equipment, suppressed weapons, communications gear, and something that made Hector smile grimly: explosive charges. "You planning to blow something up?" Tyler asked. "I'm planning to send a message. Carrie Herring thinks she's hunting a suburban dad and his traumatized daughter. She's about to meet Staff Sergeant Hector Nicholson, psychological operations specialist." "What's the play?" Hector spread out a map of Aspen, marking the locations where Carrie's people were positioned. "Simultaneous elimination. We take them all out before they can coordinate or escape. All 4 of them. In one night. All 4 of them. No survivors, no witnesses, no loose ends." Tyler studied the map. "It's doable, but barely. Timing will have to be perfect. Then we'd better be perfect." As they finalized their plans, Emma appeared in the doorway, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "Daddy, I had a bad dream." Hector immediately went to her, lifting her into his arms. "What about, sweetheart?" "The bad lady was trying to take me away from you. She said she was my family now." "That's not going to happen." "I know, because you're stronger than all the bad people." Emma's simple faith in him was both humbling and terrifying. In a few hours, he would test that strength against professional killers who wanted to destroy his family. Failure wasn't an option. "Daddy, when you go fight the bad people tonight, can I give you something?" "What's that?" Emma ran to her room and returned with a small wooden soldier, one of the toys from their old life. "This is for Luck. He's really brave like you." Hector took the toy, feeling its weight in his palm. Such a small thing, but it carried the love and trust of the most important person in his world. "Thank you, baby. I'll bring him back to you." "Promise." "Promise." 3 hours later, Hector and Tyler moved through the aspen night like shadows, carrying Emma's wooden soldier and the absolute certainty that some sins could only be paid for in blood. The final hunt was about to begin. Chapter 9. Blood in the Snow. At 2:30 a.m., Aspen was a picture of winter serenity. Snow fell gently through the amber streetlights, muffling sound and creating the kind of postcard scene that drew tourists from around the world. But beneath the peaceful facade, death was stalking through the shadows. Hector moved through the St. Regis Hotel with the silent precision of his military training. Tyler had created a diversion at the front desk, a story about a suspicious package that drew security away from the elevators. In the chaos, Hector slipped past the cameras and made his way to the presidential suite. Carrie Herring was alone, exactly as Tyler's surveillance had predicted. She sat at the suite's dining table, studying photographs of Emma and floor plans of their cabin. The photos were taken with a telephoto lens from various angles, showing Emma playing, walking to the school bus, building her snowman. A predator cataloging her prey. "Hello, Carrie," Hector said quietly. Carrie spun around, her hand moving instinctively toward a weapon hidden beneath the table. But Hector was already there, his suppressed pistol aimed at her center mass. "Don't," he advised. "I'd hate to make this louder than necessary." Carrie's composure was impressive. Instead of panic, her face showed calculation, already working on ways to turn the situation to her advantage. "Thomas Mitchell, I presume? Or should I call you Hector Nicholson? You can call me the man who's going to make sure you never hurt another child. I'm not here to hurt Emma. I'm here to save her from a killer." Hector almost smiled. Even facing death, Carrie was working her manipulation tactics. "Save her from who?" "From you. Do you think I don't know what you did to my sister? What you did to Vincent and Julius? You're a monster, Hector. Emma deserves better than a father who tortures people in warehouses. Your sister was planning to murder my daughter. Vincent and Julius had already killed 3 children. I stopped them. You destroyed my family." "No," Hector corrected. "I cleaned up the mess your family made. The question now is whether you're going to continue the family tradition or end it here." Carrie's eyes flicked toward the table where her photographs lay scattered. Among them, Hector could see detailed surveillance notes, Emma's daily routine, the security weaknesses of their cabin, even contingency plans for disposing of bodies. "You were never going to take custody of Emma," Hector realized. "You were going to kill her too. Emma's a liability. She knows too much about what Marcia really was. In a few years, she might start asking uncomfortable questions. So you plan to eliminate her." "I plan to clean up loose ends, just like you're trying to do now." The conversation was interrupted by Tyler's voice in Hector's earpiece. Package 1 delivered. Moving to package 2. Translation: Tyler had eliminated the first of Carrie's associates. 3 more to go. "Your crew's dying tonight," Hector informed Carrie. "One by one, your people are being removed from the equation. Soon, you'll be alone. You can't kill all of us. We're professionals. So am I." Carrie's facade finally cracked, showing the desperation beneath. "What do you want? Money? I have access to millions in offshore accounts. We can make a deal. I want you to never exist. I want Emma to grow up without looking over her shoulder. I want the Herring family line to end tonight. She's my niece. I have rights. You have nothing." Hector cut her off. "You're a predator who kills children for convenience. You don't get rights." Carrie's hand moved again toward her hidden weapon, but Hector was ready. The suppressed pistol coughed once, and Carrie Herring's career as a Black Widow came to an abrupt end. "Package 4 down," Hector reported into his comm status report. "Packages 2 and 3 eliminated. Clean extraction in progress." "Copy. Heading home." Hector gathered Carrie's surveillance materials and her communications equipment, ensuring no evidence of their Colorado location would survive. Within minutes, the presidential suite looked like the scene of a robbery gone wrong. No indication that Emma Nicholson had ever been targeted. The drive back to the cabin took 30 minutes through winding mountain roads. Hector used the time to process what they'd accomplished. Carrie Herring and her crew were dead, the immediate threat to Emma eliminated. But more importantly, they'd broken the cycle. The predatory family that had killed dozens of people over the years had finally met their match. Tyler met him at the cabin with extraction vehicles and new identity documents. Montana Ranch is ready. Clean slate. No paper trail, surrounded by friends who ask no questions. What about loose ends? Marcia's trial will proceed without Carrie's interference. Vincent and Julius are going to die in prison. Cancer, heart attacks, whatever passes for natural causes in federal custody. The corrupt officials are all serving time or dead. It's over Hector. Hector checked on Emma one last time before they left Colorado. She was sleeping peacefully, her stuffed rabbit in one arm and the wooden soldier he'd returned to her in the other. For the first time in months, her face showed no trace of fear or anxiety. "Time to go, sweetheart," he whispered, gently waking her. Emma's eyes opened immediately, alert and ready. "Did you stop the bad people?" "Yes, baby. I stopped them all." "Good. Are we going to the new place now?" "We're going to the new place. Somewhere with horses and wide, open spaces, where you can learn to ride, and we can watch the sunset every night." "Will there be other kids there?" "There will be other kids. Good kids with good families. You'll make friends and go to school and have sleepovers and all the things normal kids do." Emma smiled, the first completely carefree smile Hector had seen from her since that terrible night when she'd come home with blood on her knees and terror in her eyes. "I'm ready, Daddy." As they drove away from the cabin in the pre-dawn darkness, Emma fell asleep in the back seat, finally feeling safe enough to let her guard down completely. In the rearview mirror, Hector watched the last remnants of their old life disappear behind the mountains. The radio played soft country music as they drove toward their new home. Tyler followed in a separate vehicle, ensuring their route was clean and unmonitored. And somewhere behind them, the snow continued to fall on Aspen, covering all traces of the violence that had ended there. Emma would grow up now. She'd go to school, make friends, learn to trust people again. She'd never have to know the full extent of what her mother had planned for her, or the length her father had gone to protect her. The nightmares would fade, replaced by dreams of horses and wide skies and all the possibilities that lay ahead. And Hector would watch over her, the guardian angel who'd emerge from the darkness of his military past to ensure his daughter could step into the light of a normal future. The wooden soldier sat on the dashboard, a small reminder that sometimes the good guys win, not through the corrupted justice system that had failed so many victims, but through the ancient law that said parents protect their children by any means necessary. As the sun rose over the Montana plains, Hector allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The war was over. The enemy was defeated, and his daughter was free to be a child again. Justice, it turned out, wasn't about courts and lawyers and legal proceedings. Justice was about ensuring that good people could sleep safely at night, knowing that those who would harm them had been stopped permanently. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.